King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. But over the sun, there is something new. Under the sun refers to the mundane world that E equals mc squared. Energy and matter are interchangeable. There's nothing new. It may be a form of energy now, it'll become a form of matter afterwards, or it's matter now, it'll become energy. There's nothing new. And that's how most people look at their lives. There's nothing new under the sun. Even though we are always looking for the next thrill, the next experience that's like awesome. But that's all under the sun. Over the sun? What does that mean? Now, of course, the sun is a metaphor. Sun brings human life. Well, life in general to this planet. So it is about the nature of this world and the human condition. But then there's beyond the sun, beyond nature. And beyond nature is what like we're doing now. That God allows us to create something new, a new connection, a new light in that connection. That when we study Torah or do a mitzvah, God's divine will being fulfilled, his divine command, we are creating a new union, a new union in the divine, a union between the male and female parts of the divine. The Shekhinah is the female part. Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, is the male part. And through that union, that derives a new light, new life in this world. But that's only above the sun. That's only Torah and mitzvahs that has that capacity, as God makes that something that is of this world, but yet beyond this world. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zechin Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We continue in the 23rd letter. In this letter, the Alter Rebbe is speaking about the power of Torah study that's done publicly, that's done in a group effort, that's done with 10 or more people. That 10 is a minyan, is a quorum, that is a reflection, shall we say, of the entire Jewish people. And therefore, there are certain things that you can only do with a minyan, with a quorum of 10 or 10 or more, like saying the mourner's prayer for someone who has passed away, Kaddish, other things in a prayer service that's done because it is a congregational public prayer of 10 or more men, in the case of prayer, when it comes to prayer. When it comes to other things, the idea of 10 is very powerful because it draws the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, that it hovers over us. And that's beyond the sun. That's beyond the sun, meaning it's beyond nature of this world, that we have the power that's not embedded in the nature of this world, but we have the power that we can elicit from on high a new divine light, new divine life, new divine energy that surrounds us, embraces us, a divine embrace. Therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, as a result of this idea, that it's evil in my eyes paraphrasing from King Solomon, the conduct that takes place under the sun, meaning in temporal occupation is under the sun, human condition, that's under the sun, is right, contrasting again Torah that's above the sun. Especially among my brethren and friends who draw near to God, drawing near to God in a time of prayer. So whether it's after the prayer or before the prayer, that gathering should be a company of scoffers, heaven forfend. Meaning, as our sages say, if two people sit together and no words of Torah are exchanged between them, this is called a company of scoffers. Now, if a company of scoffers constitutes 10 people over whom the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, is hovering and encompassing them, there is no greater insult, shaming of the Shekhinah, than being in the company of scoffers. If our sages said concerning a transgression that a person does in secret, that repulses the feet of the Shekhinah, figuratively speaking, feet, it means not the entirety of the Shekhinah. All the more so when we have a public repulsing of the Shekhinah in its entirety. Again, speaking about people coming to synagogue to pray, this is the context. Before prayer and after prayer, instead of engaging in something that is of a holy endeavor like the study of Torah, they, sit around and just talk, yent. So the Alter Rebbe is very upset with that. That, you're coming to a synagogue, place of prayer, connecting with God. So before that and after that, use that time out in an appropriate manner of the study of Torah. And as our sages say, it's impossible for me and him to live together in this world. In other words, when you repulse the Shekhinah, it doesn't mean the Shekhinah goes away. It just means that we are shaming it in its presence. And that is metaphorically like a king that's being held captive in the gutters of our minds. In other words, in the negativity in our minds and our actions. And this is indeed a humiliation for the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God. So woe unto those who repulse the Shekhinah. And as it says in the Zohar, on three things, the Jewish people are detained in exile because they repulse the Shekhinah and they shame it. Whoa, very powerful. Oh, that's the end of today's class. That's a very harsh rebuke. Tomorrow, the Alter Rebbe will give his suggestion of what should be done, and using the time appropriately. But the idea over here is very simple. Gathering of a minyan of people in a synagogue for prayer. So before and after, you're in a house of prayer. And it's not so much about the house of prayer, it's really about the gathering of 10 people. That 10 is this quorum, this minyan, that is sort of it's like a reflection of the entirety of the Jewish people. And therefore the Shekhinah, the divine presence, abides. Yeah. So use that time to allow the Shekhinah not to be shamed, that the presence of God. Now, we don't feel that, of course. We don't sense that, just because we're not so such lofty souls that we would sense that God's divine presence is being shamed when we just are using an opportunity or not using it an opportunity properly. But so it is. So it is. What we should do? Well, tomorrow's class. I mean, study Torah, but it's going to speak specifically. Welcome to Tim in Texas, John in North Carolina, Michael in Germany, June in Australia, Sandy's in Michigan, Mordecai in Massachusetts, Eugenia in Calgary, Daphne in South Carolina, Clement, Brisbane, Australia, Joe in Washington State, Gosia from Sedona. Who else do we have here? Diane is back in Arizona. Jeff in Chicago, in Detroit. Jesse, oh, Montrealer. Ahmed in Egypt. Carmen in Texas. Amy in Colorado. Ermin St. Martin. Alicia in New York. Isabel in New York. So Jeff is asking a question if with your friends and you're not talking words of Torah. So specifically, the Alter Rebbe is speaking about before and after your prayers in the morning in synagogue, right? In a public place where you have a minyan. That's what it's speaking about specifically. Because during your prayers, there's the presence of God with the minyan. And now, before and after is what he's specifically speaking about. Now, if there aren't words of Torah, then what we did say, even if two people sit together and they don't have words of Torah, now what does that mean? You have to speak only words of Torah? It doesn't mean that. It means that there isn't words of Torah, by the way, doesn't mean that you have to quote the Tanya today or say something from the Talmud. You have to share something that is a teachings, a meaningful exchange of some Torah value. So it not necessarily means like I have to take out the Tanya and start reading from it, right? It doesn't necessarily mean I have to quote a verse in the Torah. What it means is something should come out of. Actually, it's the previous Rebbe said, two Jews get together, it should be a benefit for a third. How do you know there's a real coming together of people? Like, what does it mean, real togetherness? So for most of us, it would just mean a good feeling that you have in the company of others, which, resonates, I think, with all of us. When you're in good company of good people, right? You're not putting down people. You're not, I guess you're not talking politics or religion. Again, Judaism is, not religion. It's Torah. But you're engaged in something good. So, you feel wonderful about that. Says the previous Rebbe, no, two Jews come together. And of course, this is a message for all humanity. Um, that should be a benefit for a third. And that's what the Rebbe did by the famous Sunday dollars, that people came to the Rebbe, Jews came, and actually non-Jews too, and the Rebbe gave. Many non-Jews actually came to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe gave them $1 to give to charity, meaning here was a brief encounter. It might have been just a brief encounter of just giving a blessing, but there was a benefit that came to a third person because the dollar was given to inspire that person. We kept the dollar the Rebbe gave us because that was something holy, and we gave another dollar plus added to it to charity. So there was a benefit that came to a third. That's a real coming together, that there's a benefit for another. If it's just good feelings that you have, in your group gathering, it's nice, it's human, but that's not the ultimate point. Ultimate point is divine. Divine means a real coming together is going to be a benefit for a third. Now, to be quite frank, do I always come together with, my wife and my kids and other people, and that there's a benefit for a third? I'm mindful of it and I try, but can't say that it always will that be the case. But we try to, and somehow make a benefit. So benefit could be that you just share words, something inspirational, or just something that happened to you that could be an inspiring message. Those are words of Torah because it'll impact another person, impacts that person, impacts another person through that. That's real coming together. So let's look at the Jeff, good question. Let's look at it in the positive, on how the message we can take from here. And which the Alter Rebbe, today was a very strong rebuke. Tomorrow he's going to give the positive message. Yes. Yeah, very good. Yeah, introducing, connecting people, connecting Jewish people together, especially in this, in this day and age, how important that is. Jewish people need to know and need to feel their connection to their fellow Jew, their connection to community. It's intrinsically important, which that will give the strength, by the way, that through that individually and collectively, Jewish people can be a light unto the nations. Beautiful. All right. Folks, Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad, Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure